Hey everybody, and welcome to this edition of MCP Soundcheck. I'm Scott.
I'm Kaylin.
Yeah, I brought my wife in on this one. I think we might have alluded to us doing this episode, but if not, this is actually going to be a very interesting series of episodes. So, as some of you, if you listen to the podcast, you may or may not know, I hate Morrissey's guts. I hate him so much that I found out that he does not like to be called Steven, which is his first name. So from time to time in this review, you will hear me refer to him as Steven, because I don't like him.
I think you have this idea that I actually really love Morrissey as the person, but I understand he's full of himself and
full of himself. Whew. That's like underselling it.
I know, but I feel like you always think I'm going to be upset you're talking about Morrissey. I really don't care.
Well, it's based on my experience with Morrissey fans. It's one of those things you're either balls deep in some Morrissey or you hate him. There's no two ways. It seems like there's no two ways about it. Then I met my lovely wife.
I wish I had my pillowcase. Remember that?
Yeah, you do.
And
you did. We could have brought the mug.
And then it mysteriously vanished.
I swear to God, I don't know what happened to it.
Just saying.
But so we're gonna do the Smiths because I would kill myself if I had to do the entire Morrissey discography. So we're gonna do the 4 Smiths records, starting with their debut album, the self-titled The Smiths, and this was rough for me. All the albums afterwards weren't that bad. This one was rough. I think for me, this was the only one that actually felt like a chore.
To be fair, this album was recorded. This is the second time it was recorded, and it was done very fast, I think one night, so I'm not surprised that it doesn't really compare to the other 3.
Yeah, it definitely, one thing I will say because you had told me that prior, it definitely feels that way. It kind of does feel like they didn't really have time to finesse everything. Some songs, especially the mixing. I feel like the mixing on this album, Morrissey's vocals kind of overpower the music. You'll get a little bit of music on the intro, a little bit of music on the outro, but once his vocals hit, you really could just turn the music off and I feel like there wouldn't be much of a difference.
No, I think the strength of this album is Morrissey's voice and lyrics.
I think it's a strength, but also to me a weakness as well. He does on this album more so something I like to call vocal soloing. When a guitar, you know how when a guitar player's doing a song and they're just really just going into it with a guitar solo. That's kind of what he does with his vocals in this album more than the other albums. Just a lot of when I say nonsensical, I don't mean in an insulting way. Just gibberish, singing, just melodies and
some
stuff.
Comical falsetto.
Oh God, yes. What was the song?
It was probably Miserable Lie.
Yes, Miserable Lie. And in fact, when I was listening to it the whole time, I'm like, what the fuck is this? What the fuck am I listening to? What? But after, because there's those weird yodel things. I didn't see that coming.
The thing is, what I do love about Morrissey is I love those sounds. I love the growling and the purring and the whispers.
I like the whispers, but that one it just comes out of nowhere. It just, and you're just the thing I think that really makes it so jarring, it's kind of apropos of nothing to that song. Most of the other songs, it kind of blends, but with this one, it just felt like he's just said, you know what, fuck it, I'm a yodel. And the guys were just Steven, I don't know, maybe you shouldn't. And Steven's I'm gonna do it. Cause I'm Steven.
Yeah, but it's refreshing. I mean, if you think, it was 1984, right?
I think 82, 83.
I want to say 84.
Maybe 84. I don't know.
But I mean, who do you have right now? You have Duran Duran. You have Culture Club. You have Wham.
Well, to be fair, you had The Cure.
I know. I'm just saying,
in the late 70s, up until this point, and actually one of the songs in particular. Let me look on the old note ski. I thought Hand in Glove sounded exactly like a Cure song, just they took Robert Smith's vocals off and put Morrissey's on there, and you can't tell me otherwise.
No, I love that song.
No, but I'm saying, you gotta admit, it does sound very Cure-esque.
Maybe, I just I think...
Like, the way the guitar is and everything, I just feel like...
I just think this album, while it wasn't great, I think it was a refreshing new thing. I mean, with all that synthesizing and...
Had like a feeling out process almost, like kind of like, you know, they are trying something a little different than what's going on at the time, and you know, sometimes there's some growing pains, you know, sometimes you gotta figure out what works and what doesn't, and I think with the next album, or the next 3 albums, I think they figured out what worked, a little more of what worked and didn't work. Best song on the album. And remember, before you go any further and there's any outrage, we're doing the US releases, because there's some added tracks to the US versions, so if you see one on here that we like or we mention and you
I think you're talking specifically This Charming Man.
No, there's another one that has an extra track. I can't remember which one. Oh. But I just want to let everyone know, when we do British albums, we're only doing the US versions.
And it's hard. It's weird because I don't think this is their strongest album, but like if I think of my top like 10 favorite Smith songs, like this album has a lot of them on there.
Yeah.
But it's my favorite song. Okay. I'm going to go with Still Ill. Ooh. Was that yours?
No.
Oh.
No.
Was that your least favorite?
Yeah. Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is.
Okay. I really liked the lyrics, the performance.
I hate the fucking lyrics of that song. Like, dude, like, I've seen, this dude is like the heavyweight champion of whining. Like, I've never heard a dude, like, I will say this, though, and when I say it, it's not a total insult, because I will say, he does have a way with words. It's just a way with words that I'm not a fan of.
I really loved the performance, and I really think, like, Marr's guitar, and I think Rourke was the drummer. I'm not very good with names.
I was going to say, I don't think they changed the lineup.
I know, I'm just not very good with names. I mean, I think the band's performance altogether was really good on that one.
Yeah, I gotta say my favorite was This Charming Man. It was one of the few songs on this album that I actually was like, hey, this is actually pretty decent. Like, this was one of the few songs in their discography, like, I might put on my own. I don't know, and I'll say this, as far as the rest of the album, it was the one that sounded most like a song, and I think that might have to do with the fact that the single was actually put out after this was released in the UK. So, like, again, how we said, you know, they kind of learned their lessons. I think this song was the first example of it, because I think that was my main thing. A lot of it just felt like random ass music and not necessarily songs. Whereas from the other 3 albums on, they actually felt like songs.
I'll say the Smiths, I don't know, to me, like a lot of their music, like they're great they have like great singles, but like their albums always kind of, there's something about them.
They like, in what way?
I don't know, like all
good,
the songs
bad.
themselves are great singles, but it's like when they try to put them together, like sometimes they just don't gel.
Well, it's not... Well, no. I think they gel a little too well, because I think a lot of their songs do sound a little too similar. But it's not necessarily the music that's the fault. I think it's, like, Morrissey's vocals, because if you listen to him sing, particularly on this album, a lot of the songs, like, the vocal melodies and the vocal patterns sound very similar from one song to another. Like, the music will change. Like, sometimes it'll be like a faster, almost punk sound, which I like. You know, sometimes you get a nice, softer sound, which is really good. But the vocals seem to, like... It's almost like he's singing the same song over different music all the time, but just changing the words. More so on this album than the other ones, but...
So what was your least favorite?
Was Still Ill.
Okay.
My least favorite was your favorite.
Okay.
I'm sorry. Just those lyrics. I just found myself like, dude, the fuck, man. It can't be that bad.
Well, my least favorite was the first one, Reel Around the Fountain.
Reel Around the Fountain was actually, I like that song.
I just thought, I feel like it was kind of a lackluster start to the album.
Really? I thought it was a nice start.
I don't know. I felt like his lyrics were his vocals were kind of toneless, and it was just like, right into the album, you got a 6-minute song, and...
Yeah, I've noticed 6 minutes is like their sweet spot for songs. It's like their songs are either like 6 minutes or like 2.5 minutes.
Yeah.
However, I've noticed with a lot of the 6-minute songs, it'll be like a short intro, music, and then like the last minute or 2 minutes is like an instrumental, but it's like it repeats itself, so it's like a very unnecessary intro, like or outro. It's good, but it doesn't. You know what I mean? It's like, dude, like cut it down like 30 seconds and you're good. But I think he has some. I think they have something about 6 minutes. I don't know what it is. I think they just like 6 minutes.
I think like my overall feeling of this album is if I was going to introduce somebody to the Smiths, this is not the album I would do it with.
Yeah, I mean, well, if I had to, I kind of would, because I'd be worried about this happening. Let's say you show them like Meet Is Murder or The Queen Is Dead, right? You put that on, and let's say they like it. Mm-hmm. Then, you know, curiosity is going to get to them eventually. They're going to want to listen to this record, and then they're just be like, dude, what the fuck? You know, like, I feel like, get it out there now, see how they feel, you know? Because I feel like there are enough pieces in there of what was to come that people would get in, who would be into it, would still want to listen to the other records. Okay. Alright. Well, since we only reviewed one album so far, that's going to have to do it for this episode. But tune in next time where we're going to talk about the second Smiths album, Meet Is Murder, and we'll see how these two albums compare to each other. Don't forget to like and subscribe to our YouTube page. Hit the subscribe button and click the bell so you get notifications every single time something new is up. And until next time, I'm Scott.
I'm Caitlin.
Reminding you that rock and roll never forgets, and neither do we, especially her. See you next time.